count on to be there, and he was always just a phone call away. Scott had a playful side. He loved doing outside activities. He loved hiking with friends, paddleboarding, and going on rides on his motorcycle. Scott had a passion for music. He loved playing his trumpet. Friends would love to go and listen to him and his different bands. The most recent one was the Movers and the Shakers, and also the Elvis impressions with George. He once went to a friend's birthday party, and that Lorraine talked about that. It was her birthday party, and that just meant the world to her, and it's a beautiful memory that she will always have. It's the only one that she's going to have now. He loved learning of new bands and going to see them, and then he would always learn more about that band, and so when you would ask him questions about it, he always could tell you a whole lot about that band. And when I was talking to friends about Scott the past few weeks, some of the words that came out were he was a jack of all trades. He had childlike and he was silly. Loved music and new bands. He worked out of security for the Stampede for a few years. He was a ray of sunshine. Some of the things we will miss is his infectious laugh, the sound of his trumpet, his loyalty, random funny texts that were always off the wall, his silly side, his smile, his great hugs. And he was always, again, a phone call away, and his big, big heart. Scott will greatly be missed by everyone who knew him. He will always be remembered as the trumpet man, the heart of a person who loved all those he met. I will always think of Scott every time I hear a trumpet playing. Now he would be playing his trumpet inside the pearly gates. Scott, fly high and keep playing your beautiful music. We have this from here. Thank you.
At this time, we'll shift gears a little bit and invite up friends and family of Heather Franks, starting with Alex McLaughlin, if I may.
Good morning. Good to see you again.
Nice to see you.
So I'm going to just have you, for the record, state your name and spell your last name.
Okay. It's Alexander McLaughlin, McLaughlin.
Thank you.
First off, I would like to thank the jurors, prosecutors, and everyone who stepped up to help bring justice for my mother and Scott Sessions. My mom was more than just my mom. She was my best friend. The memories we had together I will cherish forever. I miss her every day, and will continue to miss her every day. Not only was she a mother, she was a daughter, a sister, and a friend to many. She was loving, funny, crazy, and down to earth to many and myself. I have to stay strong and continue moving forward because I know that's what she'd want for me. She will always be with me and would only want the best for me. And for that reason, I'm standing here today to say, Kevin, I have not forgiven you yet. Eventually, I will forgive you because that's the kind of person I am. I no longer have hate for you, just disappointment that you decided to do the unimaginable act that took not only my mother's life, but the life of Scott Sessions as well. I pray that one day you will come to the realization of what you've done. I would lastly like to say that my heart and prayers and condolences go out to the family and many friends of Scott Sessions. Thank you.
Alex, your mom would be proud of you.
Thank you.
And our condolences on behalf of the state of Colorado.
Thank you.
Next, Your Honor, I would invite Lindsay, who I believe is on WebEx with us, to make a statement to the court. Lindsay is Heather's niece.
Thank you. Ms. Frank, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
I'm going to have you just state your name and spell your first name and your last name.
Yes, my name is Lindsay Frank. That's DSY, last name FRANK.
Thank you. Glad you can join us. What would you like to say?
Well, I would like to start off by saying, as the prosecution mentioned, that I am Heather Frank's niece. I would like to give my condolences to the family and friends of Mr. Scott Sessions. I did not know Mr. Sessions, but from what I read, he was a beloved musician. And after everything I've heard today, I'm confident that his memory and music will live on through everyone he touched. I will always remember my aunt as the fun-loving, outgoing person that she was. Her boys were her world. It makes me sad to know that she dealt with domestic abuse for many, many years. Yet somehow through it all, she still managed to be a bright light for others. I'm sad for my family. My cousins lost their mother. She won't be with them through life's ups and downs. My grandmother died with the heartache of losing a child. My mom and my uncle lost their sister. My uncle's children lost their aunt. I lost my aunt. She will never get to meet my son. My aunt's light will continue to shine in each of us and all of those that she touched. No amount of words can put into perspective the magnitude of loss experienced by everyone involved. To Kevin, I've racked my brain over the many things I could say to or about you, but then I realized you don't deserve that much of my time. So I will only say this: you are a coward and you deserve to spend the rest of your life behind bars. Thank you to the detectives, the prosecution, the judge, the jury, and everyone involved in this trial who ensured justice was served. And thank you to the court for allowing me to speak. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Frank. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Your Honor, that concludes the people who wish to address the court on behalf of the prosecution.
Thank you. Ms. Devereaux, anybody who would like to speak on behalf of your client?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wren, anything you would like to say on behalf of the prosecution?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm not going to say a lot. I've said enough over the last several weeks, and I want the words of Scott Sessions' family and Heather Frank's family and friends to be the focus here, because that's where it should be, on their loss, on the devastation that Kevin Eastman has brought to them and this community. I'm asking the court to impose consecutive sentences as to all counts and the maximum penalty permitted by the law as to each count. I'm asking the court to give the prosecution an appropriate period of time to file restitution. And I want to also thank the jury for their work in this case. We asked a lot of them and took them away from their families and their commitments and their jobs for a lengthy period of time. And this system that we believe in, bringing justice, only works when people like them commit to it, and I'm grateful for their service. There's one last thing I want to leave the court with. Last night after the verdict, I was provided with a short video. It's like a minute that I would like to play. I would ask the court's indulgence for just a moment. As the court has heard repeatedly throughout the trial, as well as today, Scott Sessions was a gifted musician. Music was at the center of his life. And I would like to play a short video and wrap this case up on that note, if I may.
you.
Laura Stevens provided that to me and explained to me that she and Scott would go to the cemetery in Windsor every Memorial Day, and he would do that to honor the dead. There's an element of honoring him and Heather today. Thank you.
Ms. Devereaux, anything you would like to say on behalf of your client?
Yes, Judge. Judge, Ms. Morris and I am respectful, patient, compassionate, warm-hearted, and oftentimes, most of the times, has put our well-being before his own. I just wish, and I know Ms. Morris and Ms. Cervantes does too, that everyone in the room could have gotten to know the Kevin that we knew. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Eastman, you don't have to say anything. Is there anything you would like to say?
Mr. Eastman does not wish to make a statement at this time. Thank you.
So the court has considered the verdicts of the jury. The court has considered the statements that were made by family members and friends today. Listening to everybody, what comes to mind immediately is that there were two direct victims in this case, but there were dozens of indirect victims of the loss of these two lives, as demonstrated by many of your statements today. So to say there was two victims is certainly an understatement. There were dozens of victims based on the actions of Mr. Eastman. I also don't want to have the focus on what this court has to say, because I don't want to minimize what the victims and family and friends have said today. But what I will say, Mr. Eastman, is that you, the rest of your natural life in prison, based on your vicious acts of violence, jealousy, and control, and the taking of two precious lives, and thereafter disposing of their deceased bodies in such a disrespectful manner. That's why you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison. As it relates to count number 1, with regard to murder in the first degree as it relates to Scott Sessions, the court is going to send you to a life sentence in the Colorado Department of Corrections without the possibility of parole. The court is going to award you 883 days of pre-sentence confinement credit for the record. As it relates to count number 2, the court is going to impose a consecutive life sentence for the conviction of murder in the first degree as it involves Ms. Frank. As it relates to counts 3 and 4, the class 3 felonies of tampering with their deceased human bodies, the court is going to impose for each count 12 years in the Colorado Department of Corrections. And while you will not be paroled with regard to those class 3 felonies, for the record, that carries an additional mandatory parole period of 3 years. Each of those counts are going to run consecutive. And finally, with regard to counts 5 and 6, for tampering with physical evidence, a class 6 felony, the court is going to also impose the maximum sentence of 18 months in the Colorado Department of Corrections, followed by an additional mandatory parole period of 1 year. So for the record, all 6 counts are running consecutive to one another. Essentially, the court is going to sentence you to back-to-back life sentences, followed by an additional sentence of 27 years. While this is somewhat academic, the court is going to order that you pay all other statutorily required conditions, including financial obligations, and provide the prosecutor 30 days to file any additional requests for restitution in this case. And we are in recess, and for those of you who are leaving again today, we offer our condolences on behalf of the state of Colorado, and I also wish once again to thank the jurors in this case for their hard work and dedication in reaching your decision. We are in recess. Good luck to you.
All right.